again, and welcome back to my kitchen. Hey, we've had kind of a hard time getting back on our feet, so to speak, after Roger's battle with cancer. And so I do apologize for the long pause in between content. I just really feel like the wind was taken out of our sails, and we've had to take a little additional time just recentering and recuperating. And I think that we are back to the point in time where we have found our feet again and we can just kind of proceed on with life one step at a time. So today I would like to share something with you that is kind of controversial in the canning communities. And what that is canning broccoli. A lot of people just insist that you cannot or should not can broccoli. I have canned broccoli literally for decades, but I do it with the absolute sole intention of using it for cream of broccoli soup. Okay, unless you're going to pickle your broccoli is going to be soft, okay? And so I just can broccoli with the intention of using it for cream of broccoli soup. And I will show you how I do that today. And what I do is I personally like to do just a cream of broccoli soup base, all right? Now, I've spoken in other videos about how when you are putting vegetables or meats and dairy together, you know, cream of broccoli soup, of course, has, most of us make it with milk or cream and some sort of cheese. And when you're talking the process time that is needed to properly can your broccoli, if you put your milk or dairy-based product in along with that broccoli, I just really feel like the dairy can't withstand that long canning period. And so I elect to leave my dairy products out, and I just add them when I open the jar to heat and serve my soup. So today I will share how I do my cream of broccoli soup base. And I'm just going to get you all paged down here. I have prepared my fresh raw broccoli. Now you can do this with store-bought previously frozen broccoli also. So if you have a bunch of bags of broccoli in your freezer that are taking up space and you're kind of worried about the fact that they're getting old or maybe a little bit of freezer burn or whatever, you can take all of those bags of frozen broccoli out and just allow them to thaw and drain them off, and then proceed to put them into your jars, okay? And then you can follow along with me from there. But if you have fresh broccoli like what I do today, you know, go ahead and wash your broccoli heads up, and I just kind of cut them into small, kind of bite-sized, manageable pieces, okay? And I do also take advantage of that wonderful broccoli stem, all right? So you will see that I have a lot of broccoli stem pieces in here too. But the little flowers and stuff, the flowerettes or flower, you know, broccoli head or whatever, I make them into manageable sized pieces, okay? And then what I do is I blanch these for about 3 minutes. And what that does is that kind of shrinks the broccoli. You know, as it cooks, it will shrink and reduce in size. And what we want to do is we want to get that fresh broccoli to shrink or reduce in size with this blanching process. And I blanch them for approximately 3 minutes, okay? So it's not necessarily just a short thing to keep the green vibrant and whatever else. It is actually to kind of shrink and soften the broccoli. Now, if you are using pre-frozen broccoli, your broccoli after it thaws is already going to be kind of shrink down and soft already. And so like I said, after your frozen broccoli is defrosted, just go ahead and pack that, drain it, and pack it into your jars. But right now, I'm just going to show you how I blanch my broccoli. And I want to show you just a little, I don't know, maybe some of you will appreciate, maybe some of you won't. I don't like to just dump my broccoli right into my boiling water, because then I have to take one of my big old slotted spoons and fish it all out of there and whatever. I kind of like to keep it contained in a colander. And I do have a metal colander. And what I do with this, because my handles of the colander, once I put it into my canner, the handles of that colander are probably going to be underneath the water. And so what I do is I take some cotton string and I've kind of made a sling for my colander, and I will place my broccoli in there, and then I will place that colander down into my boiling water, and I will be able to very easily lift it out of my water without boiling or without steaming myself or burning my fingers or whatever it is. So I'm just going to fill my colander. I'm going to page you back up here so that you can see. And my canner is just full of boiling water. And I'm just going to take my handy dandy little sling and I'm going to set that broccoli right down in the water. And I'm just going to allow that to boil. Now, if you have a gas stove, be careful with these, these string ends. You don't want anything dangling down in and, starting on fire. All right, but I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to let this steam and blanch and boil for about 3 minutes. All right, so at that point in time, I will come back and we will continue. All right, guys, so my broccoli has been in there and blanching for approximately 3 minutes. And now I'm just going to take my handy dandy little strings and I'm going to lift that strainer right out of the water. Let the majority of the water drain right back into that canner and dump it out. And I do have a rather large, obviously, holding container here. And I don't feel like there's any reason to cool that broccoli down. If it wants to continue cooking just a little bit, that's absolutely fine with me. That doesn't bother me at all. And I'm going to start another batch and get that blanched up until I have blanched all of my broccoli in the same way. All right, so I'm going to continue blanching my broccoli, and I will be back when that step is completed, and we will continue on together from there. All right, guys, while I'm blanching the rest of my broccoli, I just want to talk about what we are going to be doing. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our blanched broccoli, putting it into our jars, and covering it with chicken broth. Now, you can use homemade broth, you can use dry powdered broth that you've mixed with water, or you can buy store-bought broth. It just really doesn't matter. Any type of broth that you want, okay? And we just happened to have a wedding in our family where I had roasted a turkey and I had turkey bones, and I have a couple of quarts of homemade turkey bone broth that I just didn't have time to can, and so I stuck them in my refrigerator. But as you can see, you guys, it's so thick. It has all that wonderful collagen in it that I need to just reheat my homemade broth just a little bit so that, it comes back to a liquid form. And I boiled my bones twice, so you can see the difference between the first boil and the second boil. But this is all wonderful, good turkey broth. And so I'm just going to get that into my pan. I'm just going to melt it just to the point, where it's fluid again. So if you have homemade broth like me, you don't have to bring it to a boil, all right? Just get it to where it's melted and liquidy again. Otherwise, like I said, you can use powdered broth mixed with water, or you can buy store-bought broth. And I do have some store-bought broth today. I will do one of my jars of broccoli soup base with a homemade broth with a store-bought broth, because store-bought broth is a lot more clear and strained than obviously what my homemade broth is. And so you'll be able to see the difference between a store-bought broth and a homemade canned broth. All right, so I'm just going to keep blanching. I'm going to get these warmed up, and then we'll be back. All right, guys, so I'm back. All of my broccoli is blanched, and I have just brought my homemade broth just to the point where it's melted, okay? This is not really hot, okay? I can stick my finger in here. It's just warm. Now, as another little tip for some of you that have to conserve water, I had a whole lot of water in my canner to blanch my broccoli, but it was too much to do my pressure canning session. And so I poured about half or 3/4 of that hot broccoli blanching water out. Now you can go ahead and you can use that to put other vegetables in or make a soup base in, or you can allow it to cool off, use it to water your plants, use it to flush your toilet. After being cooled, it can also go to your chickens, your pigs, whatever, all right? You guys, you just got to think through these things, all right, and conserve and just find ways of using things. So I emptied most of my water out of there, but it was still a little bit hot. I added just a little bit of cool water so that now my canning water, I can stick my finger in there. My canning water is pretty much the same temperature as my broth is. Now what I'm going to do, I had nothing added to that blanching water, all right? It was just plain water. But since I'm going to reuse that water as canning water, now what I want to do is I want to add just a little bit of cream of tartar to keep the calcium and lime and whatever deposits off of my canning jars. So I'm adding about 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now cream of tartar works the same way as vinegar does in a canner, but cream of tartar is much gentler on today's lids and rings, okay? Used to be, back in the 70s and whatever else, we could use vinegar and nothing would corrode. But these days, particularly those canning rings that we put over our flats, they are so cheaply made that they just corrode within one single use. They just get rusty and cruddy looking. So cream of tartar does the same thing to keep the calcium, lime, and rust deposits off of your jar, but it's much gentler on the rings and the lids. And with my water quality, I can use about 1/4 teaspoon. Now we are on a private well, but we do soften our water because we have hard water. And with my water quality, I can get by with 1/4 teaspoon. Now, depending on what your quality of water is, you might have to use a 1/2 teaspoon or even up to 1 full teaspoon. But just experiment with it and see what works for you, okay? So I have prepared my canner. I am now also going to get my bottom rack into my canner so that it's ready to receive my jars. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take our blanched broccoli, our prepared jars. Now my jars are clean, but I haven't, they're not hot, okay? They're just room temperature, clean room temperature jars. And all we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and we're going to pack our blanched broccoli right into our jars. I'm thinking I'm going to have maybe about 4 or 5 quarts of broccoli today, but we'll see. I didn't really weigh my broccoli. It's just whatever I have on hand, that's what I can up and that's what I use. And, pack it in there gently. You don't have to pack it tight, but kind of press it in there because it is going to shrink just a little bit. And this is why it's so important to have your broccoli actually blanched so that it kind of packs into that jar a little bit easier. All right, and then after that is packed to 1-inch headspace, then what we are going to do is we are going to take the broth of our choice. And now, like I said, my homemade broth is pretty cloudy, but it's also pretty good stuff. So this is actually turkey broth. I suggest using a lighter flavored broth such as turkey or chicken. Now you can still use beef broth or pork broth, whatever you want, but I do like the light flavor of turkey or chicken. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour my broth over my blanched broccoli to that same 1-inch headspace, all right? There we are. Now, if you choose to, you can also go ahead and add a little bit of salt to this. I might add a little bit of salt today. I don't know. I've got a little measuring spoon. All right, I think I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon of salt to this today because my broth is unsalted, my broccoli is unsalted, and we really do. We're not afraid of salt in our family. Now, salt does not have anything to do with preservation in a canning process. It's just strictly for flavor, all right? So go ahead and add salt if you wish. If you don't want to have salt or if you're on a restricted diet, don't do it. I think I forgot a clean rag. I will be right back. All right, guys, so I got a clean wet washcloth, and with this broccoli, these broccoli cauliflowerettes or whatever you want to call them, they do kind of sometimes have the tendency to hold and trap a little bit of air. So you will not see me debubbling very often, but this is one of those things that I do like to debubble. And after debubbling, if that headspace has moved down, go ahead and add a little bit more broth. And mine has moved down just a little bit. So I'm just going to top off with just a touch more broth to make sure we're at that accurate 1-inch headspace. And then, like any other canning application, we are just going to take a clean, wet washcloth and wipe the rim of that jar well and place your flat lid and ring. Now, I'm using my Superb canning lids today. I am going to be pressure canning. You also can hot water bath that, and I'll give you the instructions to that in just a few minutes, all right? But with my Superb canning lids, these Superb canning lids have such a thick gasket material that Superb really has a hard time venting. All of the air that wants to come out of that jar during the canning process, this compound, this rubber sealing compound, is so thick that these lids have a hard time venting, all right? So I just screw these on until the very first sign of resistance. I don't do fingertip tight, all right? That's too tight for Superb lids, in my opinion. I just go until it is the very first sign of resistance. And then when I'm taking them out of the canner, I just gently snug them up a little bit more. So it's almost like how you use a Tattler or a glass reusable lid. They're loose going into the canner, and then you gently snug them coming out of the canner. That's how I deal with my Superb lids too. So just to the point of resistance, and then into the canner. And now remember, I have tested. I've got my broccoli has cooled down from that blanching process, all right? It's back at room temperature. I've got my homemade broth is pretty much now room temperature, and I also have my canner pretty much at room temperature. So I know I'm not going to have any thermal shock because I'm matching the temperature of my filled jar and the temperature of my canner. So off into the pressure canner this goes, and we will just go ahead and fill another jar. All right, so now this time I'm going to use a wide mouth jar so that we can see the difference. All of my cloudy home canned turkey broth has been done in regular size mouth jars, and the store-bought will be in the wide mouth jars, all right? So we're just going to go ahead and do the same thing. Pack our broccoli, our blanched broccoli. And like I said, guys, the only reason why I can broccoli is solely for the intention of using it in cream of broccoli soup. I dropped some in my salt there. Did you see that? That is the only reason. All right, I've got to get this out of my way so I don't use it again. And we are going to add our salt just for flavor, like I said. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to get some of that store-bought chicken broth, okay? And this is just at room temperature also. You can just pour it right out of the container. And let's cover this one and the following one in store-bought chicken broth so that you can see the difference. And just simply, because homemade broths are a lot more cloudy, they're a lot more nutritious, you guys, honestly. Homemade broths are a lot more nutritious. But I just want you to see the finished results between the two. All right, it doesn't look like I need to add any more broth to that jar. I'm going to wipe the rim, place my flattened ring just to the first signs of resistance. Get that into my canner and do what will probably be my final jar. Don't think I'll have enough for another one. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we will get another jar out of this. A little bit of salt. And go with broth. Debubble it. Not that I debubble everything, but this I'm going to debubble just to make sure that we have no trapped air spaces in there with that broccoli. Wipe your rim. And place your lid and ring. Okay, I do believe that I have enough broccoli left for one more jar of broccoli soup base. So we'll just get this last one loaded. You guys, that is a thing of beauty. I love it when things turn out just perfectly like that. I couldn't have asked for better. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Now this one I'm just going to do a combination of, okay? And we'll be able to see the difference, but I want to use up those last few drops of that store-bought broth, and then I'm just going to finish it off with my homemade broth. Okay, and in this one, obviously, I need a little bit more fluid, so I'm going to go and grab my dry granulated chicken broth and a little bit of water, and we'll finish this one up. Okay, guys, so I could have decided just to finish filling this jar with just plain water, and that wouldn't be a problem at all, but I am going to just add a little bit of my, this is Knorr dry chicken bouillon. I'm just going to add just a touch of that because I feel like doing it. And that doesn't change any of your canning safety or your canning time. And then I'm going to finish filling my jar with water to that same 1-inch headspace. Debubble. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Just maybe a drip or two more of water to reach that 1-inch space. And then we will wipe the rim. And place our flat end ring. Just to the first sign of resistance on these on these superb lids. Okay, we are ready to rock and roll. I'm going to just slide my canner over onto my favorite burner, guys. I'm going to get my lid on. I'm going to vent for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to place my weight. And if you are doing pint-sized jars, you will pressure can these for 30 minutes. For quart-sized jars, you will pressure can for 35 minutes. So honestly, it's not a very long canning process. And also, you can hot water bath this. Now you can hot water bath either one of those size jars, whether it be pints or quarts. And I want you to pay attention to this, okay? Canning is about density, all right? It's about density. It's not about the type of food that you're doing. It's about density. You can hot water bath either pints or quarts of this broccoli and broth for 2.5 hours, okay? Not the 3 hours that we normally do for a lot of things, 2.5 hours. And I want to show you, if I can, on the camera. I don't want you ever to think that I just make up my own times or pull things out of my hat, okay? Broccoli is canned, hot water bath, for 2.5 hours. Now, broth can be canned for 2 hours. If you are in Europe, Europeans actually can strained meat broths for only 1 hour. Here in America, I've been taught to hot water bath broth for 2 hours. But at that 2.5 hour canning period for hot water bath, that covers both the safety of the broth and the safety of the broccoli. Now you can also do this with cauliflower if you prefer. You can do a cream of cauliflower soup. Cauliflower and broccoli are canned at the same times, all right? But like I said, I just want to prove to all of you that I don't just make up my own times. I do follow an accredited chart. And the chart that I follow is the 1941 Kerr canning chart, all right? So I'm going to pull up on my phone here, and I'm going to just kind of underline it just so that you can all hopefully see. Cauliflower and broccoli is canned for 150 minutes of hot water bath time. Hopefully we can see that. Well, there. See right where my paper is? 150 minutes hot water bath, all right? So I just want you guys to know that I am not making up my own times. I never make up my own times. I always follow a canning chart, and I always follow suggested times, all right? This is a totally low acid food item. I have not added additional sugar or additional vinegar so that I can reduce the canning time, all right? I am following the suggested canning time because I have not increased the acidity level at all. This is just broccoli and broth. All right, so hot water bath, pints or quarts, for 2.5 hours. Or pressure can, pints for 30 minutes, quarts for 35 minutes. All right, so I'm going to get this started. I'm going to vent for my 10 minutes. I'm going to bring it up to my appropriate pounds per pressure for my altitude, and then I'm going to start timing for 35 minutes, and we will be back to show you the beautiful results. All right, guys, so I got through my 35-minute canning period time that's in the pressure canner, and all of my jars have sealed. Now, my homemade broth obviously is not as clear as what a store-bought broth would be, but you can see that there are the results. And it's much easier to see what that broccoli really looks like with the store-bought broth, just simply because the broth is a lot more clear than my homemade stuff. But look at how beautiful that is. You guys, this makes amazing cream of broccoli soup. All right, so I am actually going to go ahead and I'm going to set up and I'm going to show you how I finish this soup off as a meal. So let me get things cleared up and I will be back to show you what I do to finish this soup after I open it to go and heat and serve it. There's just some things that I do to finish it up to make it just a wonderful meal for our family. So I'll be right back. All right, so I am set up to finish my soup. After I've canned it, I'm going to just add a few more ingredients to it and heat and serve. And so what I do is I do 1 quart of my canned cream of broccoli soup base. I do a pint of home canned onions. I do a pint of home canned bacon, a pint of home canned milk or cream, and then I also add cheese. And today I'm just going to add a half a pint of home canned cheese. And like I said, for cream of broccoli soup, we're going to smooth it a little bit by using our blender. Now, if you have an immersion blender or a stick blender, feel free to just use that. Dump everything into your pan and use your immersion blender. But I just find it's almost just as easy for me to get out my big blender and just do it in that. There's my pint of onions. Now my milk, I'm not going to add all of my milk right now. I'll probably stick some of it in the pan along with my cheese. Cheese doesn't have to go in there either. Boy, that is on there good, guys. I can barely even get that lid off. And I did shake that a little bit off cam to reincorporate stuff. Now the bacon, I'm not going to send through my blender because I do want those nice little chewy bacon pieces in there. But I'm just going to go ahead and put my lid on here, and I'm just going to buzz it up, just kind of a pulsating buzz, just to kind of smooth things a little bit. And that's about all it takes. Just about 2 or 3 little whirs on your blender, and you should be at a really nice consistency. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour that cream of broccoli soup in there. And I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients, which includes the rest of my milk. And now I'm going to pop that bacon open and crumble that into the soup. Now the bacon is optional. Actually, all of these things are optional. You guys, you can make this soup, you can finish it up however you wish to. You can add more spices, just whatever you want. If you want like a chicken and broccoli type soup, that's absolutely fine. You just do it to your taste. We just kind of like it with the bacon in there. And I always like to add the cheese element. Cream of broccoli soup is just not the same for me if it doesn't have cheese in it. And like I said, I've got home canned American cheese today, but you can just put whatever cheese of your choice in there. I'm just hand crumbling my bacon, my canned bacon. Now I'm going to have a bunch of dirty jars here. I got to grab a towel. Get that grease off my hands from the bacon. And I'm going to pop open that cheese sauce. If I can find a little ledge here. There we go. Get that scraped in. All right, guys, that's all there is to it. Let's get that heated up over medium heat so that it's all nice and hot. And we are going to have a beautiful soup, literally from jar to table in less than 10 minutes. So I will meet you back here once I get this heated up, and I'll get some dished up for you so you can see it close up on hand. All right, guys, so soup is hot and ready to be put in my bowl here. Oh, I wish there was smell-o-vision, you guys. This just is delightful. We really love this, and it's so much better than anything that you could ever get out of a store-bought can or out of even one of those packets. You know, you can buy those dry packets of creamy, cheesy broccoli soup. You guys, I swear this is better than that. All right, so I'm just going to decorate a little bit. I'm going to put just a little pinch of parsley on top for something pretty. And then I'm also going to put just a little bit of additional fresh shredded white cheddar cheese. You guys, look at this. It is so wonderful. Move my stuff aside there. Now, of course, I do have bacon in there, so there are still some chunks. Now, if you wanted to save out some of your broccoli from your soup so that it didn't all get pureed, you know, you definitely could do that. That's not an issue. And then with the additional onions, the canned onions that I add afterwards, oh, you guys, it's so, so good. I'm telling you. I hope you give it a try. And I've been doing my broccoli soup this way, oh my gosh, for almost 10 years now. Oh, so yummy. It's absolutely just delicious. And so easy, you guys. Simply broccoli and chicken broth. That's all that it requires. And actually a pretty short canning process too. And then you just, finish it up when you open this jar to heat and serve it. You finish this up however you want to. Now I know another thing that people talk about as far as canning broccoli is, oh, it smells so terrible. No, guys, it really doesn't. It just smells like broccoli. Broccoli always smells when you cook it. It just smells like broccoli. It's not a terrible odor. It's not overpowering or anything. And it comes out absolutely beautiful for use in soup. Now, would I suggest to can broccoli to just eat it alongside of, like as a side dish for your meal? No, I wouldn't suggest canning it for that. But for soup, it's absolutely divine. Thank you for spending your time with me again today. God bless you all, and happy canning, everybody.